You're listening to Inside Real Estate. Your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Sit back, enjoy the show. We had today. We had actually someone supposed to be on the show, and they no-showed. So now you got me, Salvatore Cusmano, and Brad Weisgerber. Ted, what's up, buddy? What's up, Salvatore?
Good
what's
morning.
up, Brad?
What
How's
up?
everybody doing?
Good. Fine. How are you?
Yeah, good. So obviously, everybody that's listening to the show, thank you for listening. Go to irepodcast.com. Like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we get any podcasts up and running if you want to do that. Surprisingly, some people do that. We've actually had over 20,000 downloads of our podcast. So we've crossed that mark. So congratulations, boys. 20,000 times. Yeah. That doesn't count the streams or our Facebook and all that. So it's probably quite a bit more based on that. But surprisingly, 20,000 times someone's downloaded our podcast.
That's
How does that make you feel? Is that crazy? It's wild. So last night, no idea. No fucking idea. To be honest with you. I don't know why anybody's listening to us. So last night I was like laying in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I was like looking through the internet stuff. So I wanted to talk about this, even though we had a no-show, but I figured we'd get on because it's kind of newsworthy. And we kind of like alluded to it. So not too long ago, we had Matt Ishby on the show. We were talking about how Quicken was going public. And last night, I got an article from Wall Street Journal that UWM is going public, and which is interesting, right?
It was confirmed.
We asked him. Yeah, it was confirmed this morning. We got an email from Matt himself, basically saying they're going public. Natalia, do you have that clip from the last show when we asked him about that? Because I think it'll be interesting to kind of see how he answered that. Here it is. Go ahead, play it, Natalia.
My job is to look at everything. Always look at everything. Whether Quicken does it or whether they don't do it. Whether someone's like, we're always looking at all options to make sure that we are long-term, stable business and will help our brokers grow and succeed. And so I won't say anything's off the table. However, what I would say is this: the seeing what Quicken's doing and they're doing a good job and they're going to go out in public. Seeing a competitor get stronger. And someone that's going to potentially hurt brokers get stronger does rev my competitive juices to say, hey, I got to make sure that I don't let them get stronger than us. And not from wholesale, just in an overall business. And I'm not worried about the wholesale side of it, but we got to make sure they don't hurt our brokers anymore. And so, I look at everything. It's not something that we're doing tomorrow. And at the same time, we're looking at all options to make sure that brokers can win. I'm going to be here for the next 20, 30 years doing this, kicking butt with you guys and helping everyone win and succeed. And anything I can do to help make sure we're in the best position to help you is what we'll continue to look at.
So, yeah, I mean, Natalia, isn't that interesting that like we asked them that and not too long after that, they went public. And I'm sure it's to raise capital, right? They got to compete with Quicken on some level, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a different type of
really deny
IPO, though. Right?
What's that?
It's a different type of IPO. It's called a.
So okay, go ahead, Sal. Talk to us about that.
It's
I
called
don't understand it.
An SPAC. So basically, Gores, right, which is the company that took the interest in the company, is the one who's doing the IPO, right?
Right.
I'm not
right. They're not doing
familiar, but it's not like a completely ground up IPO like Rocket or Quicken did, right? So it's a little different. Regardless, it's raising capital. I'm sure that UWM is going to put it to good use, right? I don't think they just do it to get rich, because that's never been the mantra over there, right? But it's a different type of IPO.
Yeah, it's almost like a prepackaged IPO, right? Like they took it over, they did it, boom, 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 and it was a quick kind of thing. And what I understand is Matt still owns 93%. He's only giving up 7% of the company to be sold, right?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. It'll be interesting to see what it comes out at the initial offering price. I have to imagine it won't be as high as Quicken's, just based on the appetite, right? And it's only, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what it does, and I'll be interested to see what it'll do to affect companies like us what will it do for Matt to be able to what is it going to offer us, right? What are we going to be able to do with that? What leverage is Matt going to be able to get now based on
granted
that?
Listening to the news and everything, especially with the announcement so recent, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it is not necessarily accurate or the intended use of what's actually happening, if that makes sense. So I don't really know, but I mean, based upon what I read, they're going to have like an extra $1 billion in cash, right, to start with.
Correct.
And then obviously if those shares go up, they got more money. So
who
knows? Could be used for acquisitions, technology development, whatever it is. I'm sure he's got a good plan because obviously they've, without raising any money, right, and being a private company, they've been able to kind of create the tools that help them succeed to where they're at. I mean, I think that it's undeniable that they have the best technology in the business.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's interesting.
$1 billion overnight.
What'd you say?
Want to go public?
I said I'd love to get an extra $1 billion overnight. I'll tell you exactly what my plan would be. Off to Cabo.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is interesting though. Like when you look up what a SPAC is, because in the morning I was like, "What's the stock ticker?" Right? Like I want to, get in on it. We've been dabbling in the market lately and kind of learning that that's a hell of a lot more complicated than you think, right? Mm-hmm. But GHIV is the holding company that did the IPO. For anyone interested,
is that gonna be their ticket symbol, or is it what?
Well, I read that when that it's going to be UWMC. I'm not exactly sure when that will come out. Again, you're not talking to fucking Squawk Box or whatever over here, right? Like, I don't know. So that'd be an interesting conversation to probably have with like Barry, right, or someone or Matt.
I wonder what Barry thinks about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but if you look at like that GHIV, it shot way up pre-market, and then it's basically I don't know what happened, but it's interesting, and I think that I mean it was a good firing back, right? That's kind of like the whole like the most recent exciting news in the mortgage business is Quicken going public, right? And like Matt said, it gets his competitive juices flowing. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I feel like this morning my email was going back and forth with new competitive shit coming out. Like UWM went public, Quicken came out with some new product. Both of these emails back to back. I got technology updates from Freddie Mac. It was like update city this morning from multiple different companies. Like everyone planned on just dropping shit today. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's got to buckle up because rates are still going to be low. I mean, there are so many people that haven't refied yet, right? I mean, I got a ton of clients ready to go, for one reason or another, whether they're waiting for their 6 months or they wanted to do X or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many people. The turn times are to a degree only getting worse. It's as soon as everyone gets caught
volume
up,
is so high.
Yeah. So these are going to be as, it is funny too, Matt, like when we were all like doom and gloom during the shutdown to a degree, right? Before they came out with Conquest and whatnot. Yeah. Matt also kind of called it that these are going to be like the biggest quarters we've ever had, Q3, Q4, right? So
he did call
it's interesting. And what's kind of interesting in what I think is kind of fucked up is the market reaction to Quicken's earnings, right? The market understands the difference between a technology company and a mortgage company. If that makes sense, right? So the majority of Quicken's revenue, right, is from loan originations, which they absolutely blew out the expectations of what the earnings would have been, right? Everyone was expecting X, and it was like 30-40% higher. So in a typical market where an earnings report comes out, right, stock shoots way up and stays up, right? What happened with that was the stock shot way up before the earnings report, right, with anticipation of it being good, right? People want to get in, and then right after it was like a huge sell-off. Everyone sold their shares. Basically, I think the market kind of viewed it to a degree too, as like these times won't last forever, which I guess as originators in a mortgage company, we have to think of that too, right? Like rates will be low for a while, but eventually that demand will go away. If you got a whole bunch of people on your staff handling refi volume, you got to figure out how
either way.
Yeah. So it's almost like you don't want to be too heavy on overhead without understanding that that's not going to last forever, right? And I think that these investors, institutional, investors and things of that sort, which buy up, 1 million shares of a company, right, or whatever it is at a time for, hedge funds and whatnot picking up stocks, see that too, right? And they see like, hey, times are great right now. You guys are going to have a long sustained revenue stream going forward, but eventually, like just inevitably, when rates go up, and the majority of people went from being at let's say an average of like 4 or 4.25 as far as interest rate, and now that's 3%, 3.25, right? Average across the board. You lose a ton of opportunity to originate loans and create revenue. So it's going to be interesting when that happens. That will be, I think, like our mortgage crash. After seeing all-time low rates, when the rates bounce back up, it's going to be a difficult time, I think, for people in this business.
The market business, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to talk about that. So because rates are so low right now, massive layoffs. Because right now there's so much volume. Just so the audience understands, all lenders across the country have a lot of files, and what they're doing is to get through them is they're hiring like Matt's hiring like crazy. Quicken is hiring like crazy, right? Well, if you refinance someone at 2.5%, let's say 2.75, right? Rates might go a little lower, but not. Chances are, let's say they're 2.25, whatever it is. At the point, you've hit the bottom, and all those people that have that rate, they're not refinancing anymore, right? So,
I mean, I still think there'll still be a large amount of volume, right? I mean, and the way that Matt looks at it is market share, right? How can you be better to offset for the fluctuations? And obviously when you own more of the market, but to your point, I mean, the pie is just going to get shrunk, right? And obviously Matt wants a bigger piece, but I think it's going to be very interesting for those who have built their business completely on refis. I mean, when we were account executives, it was like refi shops.
I don't know if it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a massacre for people that built their shops on refis. It's going to be brutal, man.
Refis are like a drug, though. The refis are like a drug for a lot of
huge drug.
Yeah,
because they're super easy. They're addictive. You just want to get the next one in, because it's an easy payday. It's like you get that high, right? The purchase business is a lot harder, right? It's a grind. You got to build a relationship. You got to not fuck up, right? Over and over and over and over again to really build trust.
Well, not only that, Brad,
you just got to get in the door with an agent.
Yeah. Well, not only that, Brad, there's also more moving parts on a purchase, right? On purchase, you got
tons.
2 title companies here in Michigan. You got 2 agents potentially. You got, if someone doesn't close on a house when they're buying it, they potentially are moving out of their house and someone's buying their house, and there's a whole cascade effect. The penalties for not closing a purchase transaction or not doing it correctly are really high. You screw up a refinance, nobody's losing their house. They're just not getting a lower rate. So the risk is way lower. So you can almost do a lot of volume and not worry about your performance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that is an interesting thing that you're saying, because you're right. A lot of shops right now are like, let's just make a lot of money. And you can buy refinance leads and you can have a call center and you can make a lot of money right now. But what's happening as well is those shops are definitely neglecting the purchase transactions a little bit, because if you're getting fat and happy on refinances, why do you really want to deal with it with real estate agents that could be finicky, with buyers, with title, appraisal, inspections? It is a tougher game to play in the purchase market locally, especially, and creating a good a reputation for yourself, where reputation might not, like Quicken screws up 1 million refinances, but they don't care because nobody's losing a house. So if you call a client and say, hey, listen, we can't do that refinance for you because X, Y, and Z, they're like, fuck it, right? But if you tell someone that's buying a house that their house is packed in the back of a van and they're ready to move, and they're like, nah, we can't do it. It really screws up people's lives. So, there's going to be a definite, because people aren't going to refinance at the same clip. It's just not going to happen once rates go up a little bit. But is there an argument, Sal, that if rates are going up, that means our economy is doing better? You know what I mean? Like if we start finally seeing rates going up, unless there's inflation, which would cause them to go up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who's orchestrating that, right? The Fed can, push rates up, push them down to their own tune, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the market's ready for it or that it should happen. But ultimately, I'm sure that analysts, but behind all that, are doing that in accordance with the market. But yeah, I mean, typically, if you see rates go up, that means that people can sustain them. The market can sustain higher rates and keep things moving. I think that when you see rates come up, that prices are going to come down. I think there'll be kind of like a sell-off of housing inventory. I think a lot of people, to a degree, like panic buy, panic sell, right? Like, wow, rates are so low. I can buy a house. They pay all-time high for that house, and then, oh my God, rates are going up and like values are going down. We better sell and make this happen when we can, right? So I think you'll see it. I mean, to your point, I mean, you just got to build the relationships too if you're in this business. I mean, if rates go up, rates go down, it's going to happen one way or another. You're never going to be able to predict it to a T either. So you might as well just who would have thought that all this would have happened, right? I mean,
right.
I never thought in my life I'd be looking at interest rates in the 2s on a 30-year fixed mortgage ever. It's unbelievable.
When I started in the business, rates were 6.25%, and then went down to 5.5%, and it was refi boom.
Yeah.
And then it went to 4.5%, and that was refi boom. Then it went to 3.5%, and that was refi boom. Now we're at 2.5%, 2.75%, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, the train's gonna have to. I mean, we're running out of runway, boys. You know what I mean? There's no much.
I mean, do we ever get to 1.5?
No, we can't.
Never.
I don't. I mean, we could, I guess, but I don't think so. I can't say nothing.
I would have said never to get to 2.5.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in my eyes, or at least in my own head, I'm not hearing as much about the virus, right? I mean, that's something that unless I'm just not paying attention.
As far as the virus you hear a lot of, but not as far as affecting our business for sure. I think the world has acclimated, and you see precautions, and people are, in my opinion, there's a population of people that are more comfortable going to a closing, let's say hypothetically, with a mask on. Where when this first came out, it was like, oh my God, it's the plague. I'm not going anywhere, right? You are seeing that move a little bit more. You are seeing commerce moving. You've seen adaptations from businesses. You see, like downtown Northville, where I live, you see they closed down the streets and created all seating outside and created an environment where you can walk around with drinks, which is cool. And a lot of places that have adapted to the new normal, as we call it, are doing well, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a lot of companies doing
people are traveling, and things are starting to a degree to get back to normal. I mean, obviously, cold weather's around the corner, which people inherently get sick when that happens, right? But we'll see.
I talked to a friend of mine. His kids go to private school, and private schools are open full. Like they're private, right? So they don't necessarily have to follow. They're like, yeah, we're open. He's got 3 kids. Sent all 3 kids to the private school. Within a week, they were all sick. All 3 of them were sick. Novi High School opened up, 5 cases of COVID, right? So there are still limitations to what can happen, and people are still uncomfortable with some of the things that are happening with COVID. Now, the death rate is not as bad as we thought it was, right? If you look at the death rate, it's really what it is, but it's too late for that. The idea of not spreading this thing is not going away. And it doesn't matter what I think or you think or what tolerance is, it's what the world is doing. And you're seeing countries like England and some other countries having huge spikes in numbers, and they're doubling every day. and now they're like, well, now they're going into re-shutdowns, and we might see that in our country again, potentially, depending on your governor of your state. Right? Texas is like, fuck it. No,
I don't think we will. I don't think we'll ever get back down to a full shutdown. I don't think it will.
Not a full shutdown, not a chance. I think people will absolutely go nuts if they feel like people are already going nuts. Karens and Billies all over the world are getting pissed off because they're wearing masks. What
was Karen and Chad? I thought Chad was the male Karen.
Whatever it is, Karen and Chad. Yeah. So I don't know, boys. That's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. Right? It's going to be really interesting. This fall and winter is really going to tell a lot for our business. But it is, let's see. Okay. So next thing I want to talk about before we go is process of closing loans right now, and kind of the proper, like, as a loan officer right now, we've got to set proper expectations to our clients. And I think some places might not be doing that properly, but things are a little bit harder than they were, no matter how good you are. Like, I think we do a very good job.
I wouldn't say gone are the days of, same day closings, right? Depending, but probably not going to happen. I mean, title companies aren't answering phones. It's crazy. We don't even know what's going on here. So it's frustrating. I got closings tomorrow and everyone's blowing me up for the numbers, and I've emailed and called and blah, 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 these title companies, right? And no response. Black hole. Same thing with the lenders. These closers. Right now, one that we work with, to send an initial closing disclosure, which starts a 3-day countdown for you to be able to close. Yesterday, they were working on requests submitted on the 15th.
Yeah.
To just send that out. Then you have to wait 3 more days to close, if not more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, like we got clear to close and we're waiting 2 weeks to close.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is just one out of many lenders. Another one we have, you get it clear to close today, and as long as title company and everyone's on board, you close Friday, no issues, right? But it's a mixed bag out there, depending on the volume, right, that they're receiving and how well they were set up for it. The lenders who are always like same day or next day on conditions, probably like a UWM or a Quicken, right?
Right.
Those are pushed, 2-3 days, but it's not unbearable versus some of these other ones. Now, mind you, they might have better rates, but it's difficult, man. And
so if I was a consumer right now, I would, if you're doing a mortgage or want to do a mortgage and you're talking to a loan guy, if they're not talking to you about the state of what's happening right now and creating proper expectations, people are going to be really pissed off, and it's going to be a really bad process because they're not going to know what's going on, right? And for us as a mortgage company, we are at the mercy of third parties. Like, if appraisals are backed up, which they're not because we're getting a lot of waivers, but if they were backed up, we don't have control. If title isn't answering our phone call, we're not a title company. We have to get title to do shit. If the investor or lender is not doing the proper things with the disclosures when they need to go out and setting the deal up, then we're at the mercy of that as well. And we as lenders, a lot of time, we talk to our borrowers, and I'll tell them, I'm like, listen, this rate with this investor is going to be a little bit higher, but you're going to close and you're going to be a lot happier. If you go with this investor, it's going to be miserable just to save $500. It's not worth it sometimes, right? So be aware. There's some people are so focused on getting the lowest rate that these volume low rate shops you're going to hate your life for going through it. And it's not worth the extra eighth in interest rate for you to save if it sucks the life out of you because it's an eighth in interest rate, right? I just firmly believe that most people don't want to have to deal with that if they truly understand what it means, but most people don't.
Yeah, or if you set the right expectations, like, hey, listen, you're not going to have to get me anything more than what you would here. It's just going to take an extra 3 weeks. You will get the lower rate. Is that worth it to you? Right?
Yeah.
Someone will say, yeah.
That works on refinances. Yeah,
on a refi, right?
Yeah, not on purchases. Hey, you don't have to get me anything else, but we're not going to close your home on time. We're going to need 3 contract extensions. Yeah. You good with that?
Well, these banks, like sometimes you go up against a bank and they're like, we'll give you a quarter point lower in rate, but we need 60-day extension. And sellers are like, no way, right?
We need a 90-day contract.
Some of these buyers want it. Well, if you can match it, I'll go with you. No. Sorry.
No. No.
We can't. So it's it's interesting. I mean, banks are, to me, like never a great place to go get your mortgage necessarily, unless it's maybe like a small local bank or something like that. But like, it's interesting to see like
going through Chase or
like a Bank of America, for example. Like they want so long to do a deal, but like the thought process behind like actually working through that, like how in the world did they think that anyone would be okay with a 90-day close? Like did they ever think that? Yeah, they don't care.
Well, listen,
the mortgage branch the portfolio is not a primary focus. It's an ancillary thing. They could chop it off. They don't give a fuck about mortgages. They hate them. Banks aren't built for mortgages.
Diamond at Chase has already said if he wasn't required to offer mortgages as a bank, he doesn't want to be in the lending industry. He thinks it's crap. But there is a lot of money to be made in it. Obviously, we're seeing, but because our industry is so it's antiquated. Like the process by which you get a mortgage is not very streamlined. Unless like it's horrible. What happened there?
What's going on? I think we're getting.
It did that for me too. I'm not sure why.
I think we're getting played off.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly get on. I know we didn't have the guest pop on today, which is disappointing. She was a national guest, so maybe we'll get her on again. Probably not though, because if you couldn't make it on the first time, I'm probably not going to have you back on the next time, right? So let's do that. Next week though, we do have we have a really good guest. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. What is my problem?
Zach.
Next week is not Zach. Next week is Renee Acho. And Renee's super, super smart. Renee Acho is one of the smartest agents I know. So I'm really excited to have her on. And then we are having Zach Jones on eventually. But I want to hear from our audience. If you listen to the show and give a shit, I want to get some feedback from you guys. What do you guys like? What do you want to hear more of? Because ultimately we don't do this for ourselves. I mean, we do it for the 14 people that listen. We're at 14 actual active listeners at a time now. It's good. So all 14 of you reach out to us. Let me know what you want to hear about, and then we'll put it on. I don't care what it is. We'll talk about it. So one question today, Seth. What did you say, Brad?
Maybe some limitations on what we want to talk about, but not many.
Yeah. Sal, if you could own any car at this moment and you could just have it in your driveway right now, which one would it be and why?
Man, that is tough. I mean, just simply from like a want standpoint, right? Not necessarily like value or whatever. I really like this new Ferrari name actually, but it just came out. It's a Grand Touring, a Ferrari Roma. It's like a road car.
Ferrari Roma. Okay.
Yeah.
Brad, what about you? Brad, you've got a pickup truck and a camper. I don't know that you care about anything else, do you?
I mean, if I could have any car I wanted, for shits and giggles, an Aventador.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I got the car I wanted. I got the FJ Cruiser, Sal. I love that thing.
Yeah, it's heaven.
Yeah. So I tried to change the stereo system in it. I thought it was gonna be simple and easy. Not easy, not simple. I ordered the wrong parts. It's all fucked. Like I had to like put it all back in. Dude, you know what's weird? When you change your aftermarket stereo, I've got to put the parking brake on and off to get it to work. Unless I bought this like router thing to like. Yeah, it's so stupid. So yeah, man. I
think you screwed something up.
No, bro. Trust me. I called. It's a mess. So, all right, guys. I think that's it for our show. We got a lot of work to do. We got our own business to run. But I love you guys. Thank you for doing the show with me again. And we will be here next week with Renee Acho, one of the best in the business. So please tune into that. That's going to be a really good show. She knows her shit. All right, boys.